Hey, fourth graders, this is area of a rectangle, pages 287 to 288. Let's get started. So, we are continuing our lesson on area, and last time we learned that area measures the surface of a shape. Area is found by dividing the shape into square units. So, I have this rectangle here. To figure out so area would measure the inside part of my shape here. So, all this inside part here, this is all area. This is really different from perimeter. If you remember a perimeter, the perimeter measures the distance around my shape here. So this red part's perimeter. And if you recall my example from the last lesson, I talked about how if I want to build a fence around my house, I would use perimeter, right? If I want to build grass, if I want to figure out how many square feet of square yards of grass I would need to buy, I would figure out area, okay, because this all of this inside part. So yeah, so we're gonna continue learning more about area. So today specifically, we're gonna talk about rectangles, finding the area of rectangle. So we learned about two methods of finding area. One method is to simply just count up all the squares. So if I want to figure out the area of this shape here, I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. So I can say this is 40 square units. Remember, area is always measured in square units, okay? So that means 40 squares. So in this case, 40 squares, right? 40 of these square shapes. So 40 of these individual squares makes up the area of this whole entire rectangle. And it could be square feet or square yards. It could be any measurement, right? And square units are always 1 by 1. So if it's square feet, that means this is 1 foot by 1 foot. All right. If it's square yard, then it would be, 1 yard by 1 yard. But in this case, I'll just leave it as square units. Okay, so we could do that. We can just count up the squares, but you saw how long that took me. An easier way to figure out the area of rectangle is to multiply. So I kind of hinted at that during my last lesson. For example, if I know that the bottom part, the length of my rectangle, if you remember rectangles, this is the length. Top and bottom is the length, the longest part, and the sides are the width, right? Okay, so we last time I hinted at you can multiply to figure out the area instead of just counting up all the individual squares, because you won't always have these squares here to count up. Sometimes you might just get the measurements, right? Might be like 8 and 5 feet. Okay, there's no squares here for you to count. So how would you figure out the area? You would just simply multiply. You can multiply the length times the width. So here's the formula we're going to learn today. It's area of a rectangle equals length times the width. All right. Remember, this is L and this is W, right, for width. So if I just multiply one length by one width, I will get the same answer as I did before without having to count up all those individual squares, because that would take a long time. So instead of counting, each one of the squares, I could have just did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's say this is 8. This is 8 feet, okay? And the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is 5 feet. So I could have just done 8 times 5 equals 40 square feet. So that's the exact same answer, but I got it a lot faster just by using this formula here, right? The length times the width. All right, so that's pretty much the lesson today. So let's go over some example problems here. So you will see something like this. Length, okay, something like this. Length equals, let me take away the definition for area. Length equals, you might get a problem that says 8 feet, and width equals to 7 feet. So how would you figure out the area for this rectangle shape? If I know that the length is 8 feet and the width is 7 feet, how would I figure out the shape here? Well, we know from this formula, I can just do area equals length times width. So write my formula first. Then below that, fill in the units. Area A equals length 8 times the width W 7. So then I would do area equals, what's 8 times 7? 56. How many units? Square feet. Okay? Yeah. You can abbreviate square as SQ, period. So yes, 56 square feet. All right, so it's really important that you write your answer in square feet, not in just, let me fix this. Don't just write feet, because it's not 56 feet, it's 56 square feet, meaning if I wanted to cover my rectangle, that's 8 feet in length and 7 feet in width, I would need 56 of these squares, 1 foot by 1 foot squares to cover that area. All right? Yeah. Let's do another one. Let's say I got a question that says length is 10 yards and the width is 6 yards. First thing you need to do, write the formula. Let me choose a different color to work out the problem. So let's say, okay, so the formula is area equals length times width. Plug in my numbers. Area, L is 10. 10 times W, 6. 10 times 6 equals 60. Oops. Oh, yeah, I have to do that. So area equals 60, what? 60 square yards. So my rectangle here, if it was 10 yards by 6 yards, I would need 60 of these squares. I would need 60 of these squares in order for me to cover up this shape, this rectangle here, right? Yeah. So I need 60 of these 1 yard by 1 yard squares to cover my rectangle here. So that's not too hard, right? So let's go over our worksheets. First one. So here's just another explanation of what we just went over. So yeah, so it's so if you're multiplying inches by inches, that's square inches. Feet by feet, that's square feet, right? So remember, a square has the sides are even on all 4 sides. That's what makes it a square. So if it's square inch, that means it's 1 inch by 1 inch. If it's square feet, then that means it's 1 foot by 1 foot, right? If it's yards by yards, it's square yards. Meters times meters would be square meters. Miles times miles would be square miles. All right, so let's do number 1 together. Find the area of these rectangles using the formula area equals length times width. All right, let me change my colors here. All right, so number 1A, L equals length equals 7 feet, width equals 5 feet. First, write the formula, which is area equals length times width. Then plug in your length and width. Length is 7 feet times, or my width, 5 feet. So area equals 7 times 5, which is 30, what? 30 square, what? Square feet. Really important that you guys write the square feet part. Don't just write 30. 30 what? 30 square feet. So my rectangle here, if it was 7 feet by 5 feet, I would need 30 of these square feet in order to cover up inside part of my shape here. Okay, I would need 30 of these 1 foot by 1 foot squares to cover this area. All right, so that should be able to. So you should be able to do the rest, you guys, on your own. So number 2. All right, number 2, fill in the blanks. To find the blank of a rectangle, multiply the length times the width. So to find when we multiply the length times the width, we are finding the what? We just went over it. Okay, I think you guys should be able to figure that out. When we multiply feet by feet, we get square what? All right, if you need help, look at this. This will help you out. If you multiply feet by feet, we get square feet, of course. What if you multiply inches by inches? That's square what? All right, I shouldn't have to tell you the answer to that. Okay, 3, divide and check. You should be able to do those. Subtract and check. Be sure to keep your decimals in a straight line. Just make sure you bring your decimal point straight down, okay? After you guys are done subtracting. And don't forget don't get your borrowing mixed up too. All right, number 5, solve these story problems. The length of Skipper's dog's house is 5 feet, and 5 feet, and the width is 4 feet. Find the area of the doghouse. So we just did a bunch of these. So his doghouse is 5 feet in length and 4 feet in width. So how would you figure out the area of this doghouse? Molly sold 37 dozen eggs for 98 cents a dozen. I should circle 98 cents a dozen. How much did all the eggs cost? So if 1 dozen cost 98 cents, how much did all the eggs cost if she bought 37 of them? Knowing that 98 cents costs 1 dozen costs 98 cents, how much would 37 cost? Okay, so you can figure out whether that's a multiplying, dividing, addition, or subtraction problem. Add or subtract. All right, just make sure your denominators are the same before you add them or subtract them. So these denominators are different, so we need to change them into similar denominators. All right, multiply. All right, make sure you change this mixed number into an improper fraction first before you multiply. Okay, find the perimeters using the correct formulas. So remember in order to find the perimeter of a square, all you have to do is just do square s times 4, I believe. Yeah, perimeter of a square is just so perimeter equals 4 times s one side, right? And the perimeter of a rectangle is just perimeter equals 2 times the length of L plus 2 times the length of the width. Okay. All right. Okay. So there's another rectangle here. So its perimeter equals 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. All right. So add those two together, you'll get the perimeter. Okay, so that is about it. All right. Take care, guys.